How to be silently attractive. 15 Stoic habits that command respect. Picture this. 3 years ago, I walked into a networking event like a golden retriever on espresso. Big grin, louder than the speaker voice. I was sure the world would love the show. 45 draining minutes later, every conversation had fizzled. My jokes died on the table. My cheeks literally ached from fake smiling. And then, across the room, I noticed him. One guy, plain navy sweater, hadn't said more than 10 words all night. But by the time last call rolled around, 5 CEOs were leaning in toward him, elbows on the table, waiting for whatever quiet sentence he'd drop next. I asked the host, "Who is that?" She just smiled and said, "That's Elias. Nobody knows exactly what he does, but everybody wants to know him." That night cracked my definition of charisma wide open. I went home, pulled down a dusty copy of Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, and made a decision. I would run a personal experiment. 15 Stoic habits, practiced daily for 3 years. No megaphone, no shouting, no fake grins, just quiet presence. Fast forward 95 days. More invitations than I could accept. Friendships that felt deeper, steadier. No need to fight for attention. In the next 20 minutes, I'm going to walk you through each of those habits, exactly how I practiced them, and the unexpected ways people treated me differently without me ever announcing the change. Ready? Let's start with the habit that rewired my brain the fastest. Picture this. 3 years ago, I walked into a networking event like a golden retriever on espresso. Big grin, louder than the speaker voice. I was sure the world would love the show. 45 draining minutes later, every conversation had fizzled. My jokes died on the table. My cheeks literally ached from fake smiling. And then, across the room, I noticed him. One guy, plain navy sweater, hadn't said more than 10 words all night. But by the time last call rolled around, 5 CEOs were leaning in toward him, elbows on the table, waiting for whatever quiet sentence he'd drop next. I asked the host, "Who is that?" She just smiled and said, "That's Elias. Nobody knows exactly what he does, but everybody wants to know him." That night cracked my definition of charisma wide open. I went home, pulled down a dusty copy of Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, and made a decision. I would run a personal experiment. 15 Stoic habits, practiced daily for 3 years. No megaphone, no shouting, no fake grins, just quiet presence. Fast forward 95 days. More invitations than I could accept. Friendships that felt deeper, steadier. No need to fight for attention. In the next 20 minutes, I'm going to walk you through each of those habits, exactly how I practiced them, and the unexpected ways people treated me differently without me ever announcing the change. Ready? Let's start with the habit that rewired my brain the fastest. Habit 1. Own your independence. The very first Stoic habit sounds deceptively simple. Stop asking the room for permission to feel okay. Most of us are wired to outsource our worth. We wait for applause, likes, head nods, little signals that we're good enough. And until we get that signal, we walk around half empty, hoping someone else fills the tank. That used to be me. I wouldn't admit it out loud, but I lived for validation. If I told a story and nobody laughed, I replayed it in my head for days. If I posted online and the likes didn't climb, my mood cratered. My confidence was basically on a leash, and everyone else was holding it. So I tried a tiny experiment. Every morning, I slapped a sticky note on my laptop that said, "If no one claps, will I still finish the song?" At first, it felt like a joke. Then it stung, because my real answer was no. If nobody was watching, if nobody approved, I often abandoned the song halfway. But here's what shifted. By the third week, the reflex to seek approval started to loosen. I made small, unpopular choices and stuck to them. I left a group chat that drained me. I skipped a Friday bar crawl to finish a side project. I wore a jacket I loved, even though it wasn't trendy. And guess what? The world didn't explode. Nobody unfollowed me. In fact, something strange happened. Friends began texting after those quiet Fridays. "Hey, whatever you're building looks big. Keep me posted." That's when I realized independence isn't isolation, it's insulation against neediness. The Stoics nailed this 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Owning your independence is about reversing that trap. It's about respecting your inner verdict before chasing outer approval. Here's how you can practice it. Before making any decision, ask yourself, would I still do this if nobody found out? Choose one tiny thing today that you'll do for you alone, whether or not it gets applause. Watch how your body feels when you stop waiting for permission. Because the quieter you are about needing approval, the louder people hear your actual presence. Habit 2. Master silent elegance. Master silent elegance. Charisma isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the exact opposite. It's the stillness that slows the air when you walk into a room. I used to storm through doorways like I was in a rush to prove I belonged. Quick steps, darting eyes, hands fidgeting with my phone. My body screamed nervous energy. And nervous energy spreads like static. It makes everyone else around you uneasy. So I flipped the experiment. I decided to move 10% slower. It felt awkward at first, almost theatrical, but I forced myself. One extra heartbeat before stepping into a room. Shoulders dropped, feet planted shoulder width. Chin level, not tilted down. A pause, 3 silent beats before answering even a simple, "How's it going?" The goal wasn't to look cool. It was to interrupt my old jittery patterns. And here's what happened. People noticed, without knowing they noticed. One coworker finally said it out loud. "When you walk in, it feels like the room just exhaled." That's the power of silent elegance. Your body becomes an advertisement for inner order. Marcus Aurelius himself trained to stay composed even when chaos swirled around him, because composure is contagious. When you radiate steadiness, others unconsciously borrow it from you. Want to test it today? Try this. Enter your next meeting like you set the rhythm, as if you're the drummer slowing the band down. Instead of rushing to reply, let silence sit for 3 beats before your first word. Notice how others adjust to your tempo. Silent elegance isn't about pretending to be someone else. It's about slowing down enough to let people feel your presence without you saying a word. Habit 3. Subtle signature scent. Scent is invisible charisma. It's memory in a bottle. People may forget your words, your outfit, even your face in a crowded room, but the right scent lingers in their mind, like a bookmark they can't close. For years, I rotated colognes like I rotated playlists, one for dates, one for work, one for weekends. I thought variety made me interesting. In reality, it made me forgettable. Nobody could attach me to anything lasting. So I simplified. I chose one scent woody cedar with just a whisper of bergamot. Clean, grounded, and timeless. And then I set my rule. 2 sprays only. One on the chest, one at the back of the neck. Never more. Never mixed. 6 months in, something unexpected happened. 2 different people hugged me at different times and said nearly the exact same words. "Every time I smell this anywhere, I think of you." That's when it clicked. Scent isn't about overpowering the room, it's about becoming an association. The Stoics prized minimalism, Fewer things, more meaning. A subtle signature scent is minimalism. You can breathe. Here's why it works. The human brain ties smell to memory faster than sight or sound. A faint, consistent scent becomes part of your personal brand, your invisible handshake. Practical tips to test this habit. Pick one fragrance that feels aligned with who you are, earthy, fresh, or warm. Don't chase trends, chase resonance. Stick with it. Consistency turns it into your signature. Go light. If people can smell you before they see you, you've already lost. Subtlety creates curiosity. Remember, loud cologne is arrogance. A quiet, consistent scent is a calling card people remember long after you've left the room. Habit 4. Be fully present. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." Simple words, but brutally hard to practice in a world that trains us to live everywhere but now. I'll be honest, for years, I wasn't really with people, even when I sat across from them. Coffee meetups? Half my brain was checking Slack. Dinner with friends. One hand on the fork, the other scrolling Instagram. My body was present, but my attention was outsourced, and people feel that. They might not say it, but they know when you've left the room mentally. So I built a rule, the phone stack. Whenever I met someone for coffee, both phones face down on the table. First person to touch theirs owed the other $1. The first few times felt itchy. My hand twitched toward the screen like a smoker craving a lighter. But after a few weeks, something shifted. Conversations got longer, pauses got deeper. With no escape hatch to the dopamine slot machine, I had no choice but to actually stay in the moment. And people noticed. They leaned in. They opened up. Presence became my new social currency. Here's the Stoic truth. When you give someone your full attention, even for 5 minutes, you've just offered them something rarer than money, because undivided presence is the ultimate respect signal. Try this experiment today. Next time you're talking to someone, resist the urge to multitask. Don't half listen while checking notifications. Instead, lock in, eye contact, slight nod, phone hidden. Notice how the other person's energy softens, as if they just took a breath they didn't know they were holding. Being fully present isn't flashy. You won't trend on TikTok for it. But in a noisy world, presence is louder than any shout, and the person in front of you will feel it in their bones. Habit 5. Keep a touch of mystery. Epictetus once said, "Silence is safer than speech." And nowhere is that more true than in how we present ourselves to the world. I used to overshare like it was a sport. Monday mornings at the office, I had a full weekend highlight reel ready, bars I hit, podcasts I listened to, random deep thoughts from my notes app. I thought being open made me relatable. In reality, it made me predictable. So I tried the opposite, strategic withholding. For a month, I shared nothing about my weekends unless directly asked. My Instagram stories went dark. Monday small talk got the same answer. Low key, how about you? At first, I worried people would think I was boring. But here's the twist. Curiosity loops opened. A manager pulled me aside one day and said, "People are wondering what secret project you're up to. Keep it up." That's when I learned the paradox. Mystery isn't about lying. It's about letting silence do the talking. The human brain hates empty space. So when you leave gaps, others rush to fill them with assumptions, intrigue, and respect. Think of James Bond. He doesn't narrate every move. He lets you wonder. That's where the magnetism is. Here's how to practice it. Next time you're tempted to post every detail of your day, don't. Share one highlight, not the whole film. Answer questions simply, without giving away your entire life story. Watch how people lean in when they realize you're not handing out free access passes to your world. Remember, if you hand people your entire script, they'll skim. If you give them only a few pages, they'll obsess over the missing chapters. Mystery is not absence, it's presence with restraint. And it's one of the quickest ways to command respect without saying a word. Habit 6. Develop cultural wisdom. The Stoics believed in cosmopolitanism, the idea that we are citizens of the world, not just our little neighborhoods. To them, wisdom wasn't just knowing philosophy, it was understanding humanity in all its forms. I realized how shallow I sounded one night at a dinner party. Someone brought up Ethiopian food, and the best I could offer was, is that spicy? My ignorance shut the conversation down faster than a dropped glass. I went home embarrassed, knowing I needed to expand my horizon. So I built a weekend ritual. Every Saturday, I'd pick one country I knew almost nothing about. I'd skim its Wikipedia history, stream one song by a native artist, and try cooking a single dish. Simple. The results shocked me. On Monday mornings, I'd casually mention, "This bread is called injera, it's from Ethiopia. Did you know they run on a 13-month calendar?" Suddenly, co-workers leaned in. What started as a 10-second exchange turned into a 20-minute conversation about culture, travel, and perspective. Why does this work? Because cultural wisdom signals curiosity. It says, "I see beyond my own bubble." People respect that. It makes you magnetic because you become a bridge, not just a mirror. Here's how you can practice this. Pick one country a week and learn 3 facts. 1 historical, 1 cultural, 1 personal, like food or music. Share those nuggets naturally in conversation, not to brag, but to connect. Keep it light. Let the other person teach you more. Curiosity is more attractive than expertise. Seneca once said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." I'd add, wherever there's culture, there's an opportunity for connection. Cultural wisdom is like carrying a universal passport in your pocket. It doesn't make you louder, but it makes people feel more alive when they're around you. Habit 7. Lead with compassion. Seneca said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." But here's the secret most people miss. Kindness doesn't weaken. Respect it, deepens it, when it's practiced with intention. For years, I treated compassion as a vague feeling, not a habit. I'd think, I should be nicer, then forget by the next email notification. So I built a ritual. Every Friday, I wrote a handwritten thank you note, 3 sentences max, to whoever had made my week even a little better. One week, it was the barista who remembered my order without asking. Another week, it was the security guard who stayed late to let me in. I slipped the notes into their hands quietly. No big speech, no performance. The reactions floored me. Eyes widened, smiles cracked. One person whispered, "Nobody does this anymore." And the ripple effect? 6 months later, during a chaotic fire drill at work, that same security guard waved me through a locked shortcut door, saving me 10 frantic minutes. Compassion, it turns out, pays compound interest. The Stoics believed character is revealed not in grand gestures but in daily choices. Compassion is one of those quiet daily choices. It doesn't scream for attention. It whispers trust into the people around you. Here's how you can try it. End your week by writing 1 thank you note or message. Keep it short. Keep it sincere. Acknowledge the overlooked people. The janitor, the teammate who always shares notes, the friend who checks in. Watch how doors, literal and metaphorical, swing open in return. Kindness doesn't make you invisible. Done right, it makes you unforgettable. Because when people look back, they won't always remember what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel, and that memory commands respect more quietly than anything else. Habit 8. Radiate joy and humor. When most people think of Stoicism, they imagine stone-faced statues, emotionless, unshakable, maybe even cold. But that's a cartoon version of the philosophy. The real Stoics knew joy. Marcus Aurelius once joked that anyone who complained about garlic was simply unwilling to celebrate life. And here's what I discovered. Joy isn't just fun, it's magnetic. For years, my humor came from nervous energy. I'd crack 3 jokes in a row, laugh too loud, then look around desperately for approval. It was exhausting for me and for everyone else. So I tried something new, the 10% rule. Whatever my natural laugh volume was, I dialed it up by 10%. Not fake, not forced, just slightly bolder. And then I slowed it down by 1 gear. Instead of rapid-fire giggles, it became steady, relaxed laughter that didn't beg for permission. The effect? People leaned in. One day, in a dull budget meeting, I dropped a quiet one-liner. Nothing crazy, just a small joke. The room cracked up. Later, someone messaged me in Slack. "You're like the quiet stand-up comedian in the office." That's when it clicked. Joy is gravity. People orbit the unanxious. Here's how you can practice radiating joy without looking like a clown. Let your humor be observational, not self-deprecating. Point out life's ironies instead of tearing yourself down. Practice the 10% rule. A little louder, a little slower than feels natural. Confidence lives in that zone. Don't force laughs. Let them come when they feel honest. Remember, joy doesn't mean constant jokes. It means carrying an undercurrent of lightness, like a smile behind your eyes that says, "Life isn't crushing me right now." In a world addicted to stress, that energy makes you irresistible. Habit 9. Prioritize self-care. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man cannot be comfortable without his own approval." And here's the modern translation. You can't command respect if your own body and mind are falling apart. For years, I treated self-care like a luxury, something you earned after grinding yourself into dust. Sleep was optional, workouts were negotiable, meals were whatever I could grab between emails. On the outside, I looked busy. On the inside, I was one skipped night of sleep away from collapse. The turning point came when a colleague looked at me one morning and said, "You look solid." That word stuck with me. Not flashy, not shredded, not glamorous, just solid, reliable, grounded. And I realized that's exactly how I wanted to show up in the world. So I set non-negotiables. 7 hours of sleep, minimum, no excuses. 3 workouts per week, even if short. 1 hour of fiction every weekend to keep my imagination alive. I didn't announce it. I didn't post about it. I just lived it. And slowly, people noticed. Comments shifted from, "You look tired," to "You seem focused," and eventually to, "You always have steady energy." Here's the Stoic truth. Self-care isn't indulgence. It's maintenance of the vessel that carries your character. You wouldn't neglect oil changes on a car you valued. Why neglect the only body and mind you'll ever own? Try this today. Pick one baseline habit, sleep, exercise, or nutrition, and set a minimum standard. No negotiation. Keep it quiet. Let the results show, not the announcements. Notice how others begin to mirror your steadiness. Because the world respects people who respect themselves, and nothing says silent magnetism louder than walking into a room looking like you've actually taken care of your body and mind. Habit 10. Build emotional intelligence. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And that line is the foundation of emotional intelligence, the ability to notice what you're feeling without letting it hijack the entire room. For most of my life, I skipped that step. Elevator running late, I'd huff, roll my eyes, and let the frustration bleed into every word that followed. A tense email from a client. I'd type back in panic mode, only to regret the tone later. My emotions weren't signals, they were drivers, and they drove me straight into walls. So, I tried something simple. Name it before you claim it. When I felt tension rising, I'd say quietly to myself, I notice I'm anxious because I fear being late. Or, I notice I'm irritated because I expected something different. Naming the emotion created a gap, and in that gap, choice was born. 6 months in, a junior employee burst into tears after a rough client call. Old me would have rushed to fix it, tossing out solutions like candy. Instead, I mirrored back what I saw. You're frustrated because you care deeply about doing good work, right? She looked up through tears and said, yes, finally someone gets it. That moment taught me, emotional intelligence is quiet sonar. You don't have to be loud to lead. You just have to listen deeply enough to reflect what others are feeling, sometimes better than they can themselves. Here's how to build it. Pause before reacting. Ask yourself, what exactly am I feeling, and why? Mirror emotions in conversations. Sounds like you're disappointed because you expected X. Practice staying calm when others are storming. Your steadiness becomes medicine. The Stoics weren't emotionless. They were emotion-aware, and that awareness, practiced daily, is magnetic because it shows people, here is someone who won't get lost in the storm. Habit 11. Be consistent and reliable. Seneca once said, a promise is a debt, and nothing drains respect faster than someone who pays with excuses instead of keeping their word. For years, I treated commitments like suggestions. I'll text you that link later. I'll send over the notes tomorrow. Harmless, right? Except half the time I'd forget. And little by little, people stopped taking me seriously. So I built a system. I created a public Trello board called Promises. Every time I made a commitment, big or small, I wrote it down. If I told a friend I'd send a podcast, it went on the board. If I told a coworker I'd review a slide, it went on the board. Every check mark was visible. Every missed promise would have been too. Here's what happened. When people saw their names move into the done column, the message was clear. This guy shows up. Slowly, trust thickened around me like armor, and trust is magnetic. Consistency doesn't need to be flashy. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. But if you're the one people can rely on, over and over, your reputation becomes unshakable. Try this in your own life. Keep a promises list, digital or on paper. Every single commitment goes on it. Review it daily. Don't let anything slip. Deliver quietly. No need to announce. Let the consistency speak. The Stoics prized reliability because it proves self-mastery. A person who shows up when they say they will is a person who controls themselves, not just their schedule. And here's the twist. Reliability isn't boring, it's rare. In a world of flakiness, the consistent one stands out like a lighthouse. Habit 12. Speak less, mean more. Epictetus reminded us, nature gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we might listen twice as much as we speak. And nothing builds silent respect faster than disciplined speech. I used to think filling silence with words proved intelligence. At parties, I'd be the guy stringing together long-winded stories just to avoid awkward pauses. At work, I'd pile on 5 extra sentences after making a point, afraid people wouldn't get it unless I hammered it home. Here's the problem. The more I talked, the less people valued what I said. Noise cheapens words. So I built a strange little challenge, a daily sentence budget. At social events, I allowed myself only 25 spoken sentences. That's it. At first, it felt impossible, but the limit forced me to think carefully before speaking. Was this sentence necessary? Was it adding value, or just filling air? Something wild happened. By sentence 18, people started leaning in. They noticed that when I did speak, it was deliberate, focused, worth listening to. My restraint amplified my voice. The Stoics weren't mute, they were measured. They knew that words, like currency, are most powerful when spent wisely. Here's how you can practice it. Before answering, pause. Ask yourself, does this improve the silence? Cut filler words. Replace long-winded explanations with crisp clarity. Embrace pauses. Let silence do half the work for you. In conversations, less really is more. People remember the one line that hit like an arrow, not the 20 scattered sentences that whizzed by like confetti. Speak less, mean more, and watch how the room begins to wait for your words instead of drowning them out. Habit 13. Dress with intent. The Stoics taught simplicity, but simplicity is not the same as carelessness. The way you present yourself is a silent broadcast of how much order you bring to your own life. People may not remember your exact shirt, but they'll remember the impression, this person has it together. I used to treat clothes like an afterthought. Grab whatever was clean, hope for the best. Sometimes it was mismatched colors, sometimes loud logos, sometimes wrinkled shirts. I thought personality alone would carry me. But here's the hard truth. People notice before you speak. So I stripped it back. I built what I call the monochrome armor. Charcoal, navy, olive, 5 well-fitting basics, thrifted and tailored. No slogans, no screaming colors. Just clean lines and solid fabrics. Here's what shifted. Compliments changed. Instead of nice shirt, which is about the item I started hearing, you always look put together. That's about me. That's about consistency. That's about trust. Why does this work? Because dressing with intent signals discipline. It tells the world, if I can edit my wardrobe, I can probably edit my life. And people trust edited lives. Want to test it yourself? Choose a neutral color palette and stick with it. It makes everything match effortlessly. Prioritize fit over brand. A 20 shirt that fits will outshine a 200 shirt that hangs like a curtain. Keep it clean and simple. Understated always outlasts flashy. Remember, the Stoics weren't about chasing trends. They were about eliminating excess. Dressing with intent is modern Stoicism woven into fabric, quiet, sharp, and impossible to ignore. Habit 14. Control your reactions. Epictetus said it best. Any person capable of angering you becomes your master. And the truth is, the fastest way to lose respect is to lose control of your reactions. For most of my life, I was reactive. A sharp email, I'd fire back in seconds. Someone cut me off in traffic, horn blaring, middle finger flying. A meeting turned tense. My voice jumped 2 octaves, my hands fidgeted, my chest tightened. Every reaction screamed, "You can control me if you push the right button." That's when I started practicing the Stoic pause. Simple rule. Before any charged response, I forced myself through a breathing pattern. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Just one cycle. It sounds trivial, but that pause was magic. One afternoon, a heated budget meeting spiraled into a blame game. Voices escalated, fingers pointed. Old me would have joined the chaos, trying to shout my way to safety. Instead, I breathed. My heart rate slowed, and with calm words I said, "Let's look at the data first." Silence. Heads turned. The storm settled. Afterward, a colleague told me, "When you spoke, it lowered the temperature in the whole room." That's the power of controlled reactions. You become the thermostat, not the thermometer. Here's how you can train it. When triggered, delay your reply by one breath cycle. It gives your rational mind a fighting chance. Rehearse neutral phrases you can drop instead of explosions. "Let's check the facts," or "I'll think on that." Observe how people respond, not to your anger, but to your composure. The Stoics believed strength isn't in never feeling anger, it's in refusing to be its puppet. In a noisy, reactive world, calmness is shocking. It commands respect without ever raising your voice. Habit 15. Create space for yourself. Marcus Aurelius guarded his mornings fiercely. He called them his sacred hours. Why? Because he knew the world would always try to drag him into noise, urgency, and distraction. And if he didn't claim a piece of time for himself, he'd lose himself in everyone else's agenda. For most of my 20s, I made the opposite mistake. I said yes to every text, every call, every urgent Slack ping. If someone needed me at 7 a.m., I was there. Midnight email? I replied. I thought being available made me valuable. In reality, it made me forgettable. When you're always accessible, people stop respecting your time, and eventually, you stop respecting it too. So, I created sacred space. For me, it was 7-9 a.m. blocked red in my calendar. No meetings, no social media, no errands, just deep work or reflection. At first, people complained. "Why aren't you answering?" But over time, they adapted. Friends started saying, "He's probably in monk mode." And something fascinating happened. The less available I became, the more valuable my time became. People leaned in harder when they did get me. Conversations were richer. My presence carried more weight. Here's how to practice it. Block out sacred hours each day. Protect them like your life depends on it, because in a way, your quality of life does. Use that time for your highest value work or deepest rest, not busy work. Communicate it casually. Mornings are my deep work hours, but I'm free after 10. Over time, people will adjust. Scarcity is magnetic. When you create space for yourself, you teach the world how to value you. And paradoxically, by stepping back for a few hours, you return to others with more presence, more energy, and more respect. The Stoics knew it. Space isn't selfish, it's self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation of every other kind of respect you'll ever receive. Pause for a second. Out of these first habits we've covered, which two hit you hardest? Independence, silent elegance, emotional intelligence. Don't just nod test them. For the next 7 days, pick any 2 habits and practice them deliberately. Write the numbers in the comments below, and I'll reply with a single tweak to lock it in faster. And if this video has already given you a light bulb moment, hit subscribe and ring the bell, because this channel is about building quiet power week after week. Silent attraction isn't a one-time trick. It's a daily practice. Let's practice together. The after, the quiet result. 6 months into my own experiment, I didn't need to announce anything. A friend sent me a screenshot of a group chat planning a weekend trip. The last message read, "Let's wait to see if Marcus can come. His yes makes everything feel more worthwhile." It not to get the summer, the Olinus firm. That stopped me cold. I hadn't begged for inclusion, hadn't shouted for attention, hadn't campaigned for influence. I'd simply become the person whose absence lowered the temperature, the quiet magnet. That's the real test. Not how people treat you when you're loud, but how they treat you when you're silent. If your silence makes people lean in, you've crossed into a different league of presence. Silent attraction isn't about being mysterious for the sake of ego. It's about practicing habits that make people feel calmer, safer, and more curious around you. When you stack these 15 Stoic habits, you don't need volume. Respect starts echoing in the room before you even open your mouth. Conclusion: keep the promise. You don't need to master 15 habits overnight. That's noise, not stoicism. Pick one. Maybe it's owning your independence. Maybe it's guarding your mornings. Maybe it's building emotional intelligence. Master it for a week. Then let the next habit choose you. Brick by brick, you're building something bigger than charisma. You're building character. And character is a fortress you never have to defend out loud. So here's the invitation. Start small, but start today. Test one habit. Notice the shift. And when it happens, comment, "I choose silence that speaks," because that's the quiet revolution we're building here. If this added value, share it with one person who's tired of being loud just to be seen. Together, let's prove what the Stoics knew all along, that real respect doesn't come from noise. It comes from silence, discipline, and presence. The kind of presence that doesn't shout, but speaks louder than anyone else in the room.